Well, a very warm welcome to everybody. I hope you can hear me. I'm afraid I have a very croaky voice this evening. But thank you so much for being here with us in London for this launch of the 10th edition of the Global Art Forum. And a huge thanks to Gregor, to Rosalie, and to all the team at the ICA for all their help. And I'd like to offer another big thanks to our partners in the forum, Dubai Design District and Dubai Culture and Arts Authority, who've supported the forum for many years. And before we begin, I'd just like to also thank the Art Dubai team, and particularly the Global Art Forum manager, Uns Katan. You get 2 shout-outs tonight, and she's still hiding, but we'll get her out at some point. And also to our fantastic 2016 directors, Amal, Khalaf, and Uzma Rizvi, and also to the commissioner of the forum, Shumon Basar, who's here with us. We had another launch. I don't know if you can launch twice, but this is we're in Dubai. We do everything several times over. In Dubai last week, and outside and in a slightly different climate zone from here, but with an incredibly diverse roster of speakers, including Sheikh Ahur Al-Qasimi from the Sharjah Art Foundation, the scientists who are heading up the UAE Space Center, who are planning on sending a rocket to Mars, and the Bahraini artist, musician and composer Hassan Hujeri, who works with and reworks traditional fishing songs of the Gulf. And I guess this gives you an idea, as does tonight's program, of the great diversity of the forum and the ways in which we've really tried to reimagine an approach to the arts. So just turning back the clock a little bit to when I started at Art Dubai in 2010, and Shumon and I sat down and tried to devise a new kind of talks event. We wanted to reboot the Global Art Forum and start with the premise that we'd think of the forum as a kind of marriage between a university and a magazine. A great diversity of formats and approaches, from polemics to long-form features via something we called Frants one year, which is a friendly rant. If anyone wants to do one tonight, we'd be very happy to hear them. And we also wanted to think of art as absolutely central to society, but never in isolation, and hence the inclusion of scientists, technologists, anthropologists, archaeologists, musicians, alongside artists, curators, and filmmakers, and also alongside those who refuse to be defined by their discipline, which is increasingly more and more of us these days. And also aware that in many art fairs and major arts events, the talks program becomes a place to have a quick snooze or to catch up on your Facebook program or Facebook profile. We decided we wanted to create a forum where no one fell asleep. But I think one of our contributors tonight might be defying that rule, but we'll see how the evening goes. 2016, as Gregor mentioned, is a very special year for Art Dubai and the Global Art Forum, marking 10 years that the program has been in existence. And this has led to some reflection on the extraordinary changes, not only in the Middle East, South Asia, and across the non-Western world, and particularly in the UAE and the Gulf, but also the art world in general, and how the art world deals with ideas around internationalism. In 2006, to set up an art forum that aspired to be global and had no choice but to be global given its location in Dubai was seen as quite radical. And that makes it seem like a very long time ago. Major institutions in London had begun to think about how they engage with the world outside Europe and America, but this tended to be through occasional one-off umbrella shows rather than understanding the world as being intrinsic to the art world. Immediately, when Art Dubai and the Global Art Forum opened in 2007, there was a wave of international fascination and interest in what was happening in the Middle East. And in Dubai and the UAE quickly became seen as a hub, not only for the Arab world, but for South Asia, Iran, Central Asia. And this is a role that has grown exponentially over the years. And I guess, Art Dubai and the Forum have become, among many other events, kind of emblematic of this seismic shift that has taken place in the past decade and become a site of debate about those ideas. And I think over the years, the Gulf and the UAE have begun to be seen as a producer of ideas rather than just traders and consumers, and we like to think we've very much added to that and encouraged it. And in contrast to many other established art cities and those dealing with the baggage of object-based history, in Dubai, we find ourselves constantly thinking about the future. What is to come? How can it be built? How can we build an art scene that matters locally and internationally? And what does it mean to be truly global anyway? And this future-forward logic creates a perfect petri dish of curiosity and openness, And over the years, the forum has become something of a laboratory for exchange and production. I don't think we can get into thanking all the speakers behind me, because there have been so many over the years of the forum, and because we're having such an incredible lineup tonight as well. So, and I think I'm very much out of time already, keeping to our strict schedule. So I'd really like to hand over to Shumon now, who's been engaged in nearly every single one of the forums since it began, and to thank our speakers again and enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Antonia. Thank you all very much for coming this evening. Thank you to the ICA for so generously hosting us, and to Gregor's very kind words. Beyond London being a sentimental home or a former home, to many of us, it's also, quote, the 8th emirate of the United Arab Emirates. This, according to Mayor Boris Johnson. For once, he of the disheveled hair, his turn of phrase turns out to be quite true. And this makes this special appearance of the Global Art Forum a special kind of homecoming for us. Before home became defined as, quote, wherever a Wi-Fi network automatically connects to you. Home, in fact, had to do with family. Many of the 400 members of this extended Global Art Forum family are here today, which is homecoming again. Oh crap, you're thinking, he's getting all nostalgic. And I came here to hear about the future. Let's alleviate you of that worry, but also remind you that nostalgia, as cited by the late, great Svetlana Boym, used to be thought of as, quote, a hypochondria of the heart. You see, the heart understands time in ways that no clock ever can. Oh crap, you're thinking, aren't anniversaries just cynical structures for commodifying or whitewashing the past? Definitely. But anniversaries are also the heart's navigation instrument to help us against the scaleless accumulation of time. Undoubtedly, if you remember the past too piously, you cancel the future. But the idea of the future does have a past. A long time ago, there were people who didn't see the shape of time as we do, as a line that progresses forward from here to there, me to the horizon. Instead, time was elliptical, infinitely regressive and recursive. It gained its meaning through repetition and reenactment, seasons, harvests, sunrise, moons. Time, in fact, felt finite. Many, many moons later, and the future became a province of Europe from the 15th century onwards, when it exported and expanded its colonial territories via the oceans. Interestingly, the 15th century is when the word future appears for the very first time in European languages. This can't be a coincidence. Then we have the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, the French Enlightenment, indeed the avant-gardes of the 20th century. All these continued the reorganization of the globe from a north-south division to an east-west division. A few years into the 21st century, after the fall of the Soviet Union, 9/11, and the start of the War on Terror, I arrived in Dubai in the end of 2005, and arriving there, I felt that maybe, just maybe, this 500-year-long story was coming to a close. The tectonic plates were shifting again. The end of history seemed to mean nothing here, but the future was all kinds of salvation. In fact, as one of the most iconic of Dubai's billboards informed us, what was in fact happening was history was rising. So, we have a series of images here. They've been collected by Watad magazine, which is a magazine on architecture and design and urbanism based in Dubai. So these are marketing and publicity images from that giddy time in Dubai and in the UAE in the mid-2000s, and certainly before the great crash of 2008 and 2009. And for us, it's a kind of time travel to the past of the future. Look at the language, the images. Utopia was somewhere you could buy and, in fact, move into. The present simply became a placeholder for a better tomorrow. The desert horizons were the opposite of nostalgia, but they also aspired to a carnival of historical references. In this kind of environment, paradox was no longer paradoxical. The thing is, cities are fueled by the future, but they're always destined to date into history, unless, like David Bowie, you become your own usurper, forever restless, forever iconoclastic. News of his passing away this Monday made the future as we knew it die a little more. But maybe the idea of the future has died many little deaths every time we eclipsed another totemic future date. 1984, 1999, Y2K, 2001, A Space Odyssey, 2012, the Mayan apocalypse. Then, of course, there was Marty McFly going forward into the future, which was last year. The date that Roy Batty, who was the lead replicant from Blade Runner, played by Rutger Hauer, he was born last week. And this relates to one last frontier for me. That's 2019, and that's the year that Blade Runner is set in. So our experiences and environments affirm that time in this part of the 21st century is, once again, no longer neatly divided between past, present, and future. This home truth is at the core of what the Global Art Forum tries to do. And so to introduce the present future in all its extremities and contradictions, I'd like to welcome one half of our beautifully dressed and beautifully minded co-directors, Amal, Khalaf. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shumon, and thank you all for joining us tonight, where we have all collectively landed here for maybe just a moment into this future we're seemingly not ready for, the present. A present so volatile and shape-shifting that time is difficult to grasp. The future seems to have already happened, or as Shumon described just now, it seems to have died a little. But as science fiction continues to collide with our present, the future is seemingly always here. Hoverboards are banned on planes, and our interactions with others and ideas are mediated through screens. And last Saturday in Dubai, at our first session of the Global Art Forum, we spoke of building universes off coastlines and journeying to Mars. The present moves at such a high velocity, so saturated and compressed, that speculations on tomorrow become predictions of the present. Despite the world's human population boom, the idea of humanity as the leading light of the evolutionary process is said to be fading. Machines, be them financial, technical, or political, are assembling into systems that threaten to replace humans as a subject of history. We are balanced on the knife edge of crisis, unraveling fast with ever more precarious populations, ecologies, cultures, and languages. The future is uncertain, and yet we keep moving and projecting ourselves forward, not yet teleporting, but nevertheless moving, marching together, navigating borders, and looking for safe harbors. For all our ability to analyze and critique, we have become rooted in what is. And what is a space and time increasingly subsumed into a system of global capital. We're only able to think a few moments into the future, or the future is presented in terms of expansion in scale, size, and speed. Even with the prescience and foreknowledge available to us at a finger swipe, are we able to recalibrate an idea of the future? Over the course of this forum, we'll ask what are the politics of thinking of the future today? Are our ruptured histories, where we jump through time on our mobile phones like Sophia Al-Maria's Sci-Fi Wahhabi, able to be revisited? Is it possible to slow down and think in the deep time our civilization has lived in? Surrounded by both the successes and shadows of yesterday's desired tomorrow, how can we envision what else could be? Beyond expanding into the sea and to the event horizons of black holes, how can we move past the colonial roots of the idea of the future? In Octavia Butler's Parable of the Trickster, the final book in the Parable series, she wrote, "There's nothing new under the sun, but there are new suns. Other worlds are possible, and they are on their way. Imagining the so-called impossible is how we can begin to concretely build it. When we step into this present future, we can question everything. The future can be redirected, focused, slowed down, and shaped. So how do we reorient ourselves to what's next? Can we save the future of our future? And with this question about future futures, I hand you over to the amazing Uzma Rizvi.
Thank you, Amal. Good evening, everybody. It is with great pleasure that I, too, welcome you to this evening to join us in considering how, when, why, and for whom the future was. It is not an accident that an archaeologist, yes, that's what I am, an archaeologist is speaking to you about the future. And although it might make Italian poet Filippo Marinetti squirm in whatever liminal space he currently occupies, because when he first talked about in 1908, his claim for futurism was based in a rejection of the past, in and for a celebration of speed, machinery, violence, youth, and industry. And so it is not just by chance or so interesting that I, who specialize in the 3rd millennium BC, speak of the contemporary and the future. In our current moment, the simultaneity, compression, circularity, and erasure of time is difficult to ignore. Increasingly, the ways in which we conceive of, experience, and consider time imagines itself as central to our understandings of ourselves, to naming and claiming geological epochs, such as the Anthropocene, as a way maybe to contextualize, perhaps even rationalize, our special behavior. It is within the context of such epochs that many cultural theorists and even archaeologists would argue that the future is in fact already over. But space-time is not linear. It is an artifactual conceit of Enlightenment and modernity's promise that popular conception has refused to let go of because it continues to maintain power relations and privilege. In most other parts of the world, and for most other and othered people, space-time existence have different histories, realities, and possibilities. Our futures have always included parallel universes or utopic fantasies. Whether we go back to one of the earliest feminist utopic texts, Sultana's Dream, written in 1905 by Begum Ruqayya Sakhavat Hussain, published in English in a Chennai-based English periodical, the Indian Ladies magazine. There's a Freudian slip, if there ever was one. The Indian Ladies magazine, or if we think of Haruki Murakami's 1Q84, in which our protagonist takes an emergency stair ramp from the highway, slipping into a parallel universe. She recognizes the universe's alterity only by shifting her gaze slightly to the left of the moon and notices a second. We hope that this evening and in March, if you join us and if you can join us, that you do join us in shifting our gaze slightly to alter both space and time, though not through an experience of linearity, but while stepping in and out of materiality and moments to experience new possible futures. And with that, I think we shall begin our programming. Yeah?
And